Um,
Yes.
we have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
We worked together on many projects. Some I never got to make. I worked for years on The Stand, on Pet Cemetery, on several other projects that I didn't get to make because I was working on something else, and then they were so. We've always tried to work together, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. You know, the financing doesn't come soon or whatever. They started to shoot The Stand. I was working on the duck half. They started to shoot Pet Cemetery. I was working on Monkey Shine. So that's what happened. They fell apart. But Steve and I are still very close friends. Our families know each other. He lives in Maine, and he's another guy that stays away from the studios. And I live in Pittsburgh in Florida, and so we see each other, you know, whenever we can in New York, in Florida, L.A., and we've managed to stay very good friends. Well, it's very difficult now to make small films because, first of all, there are many people invested in small films in the past and never got a fair return. And there are no more small distributors. All the distributors are the majors now. Very difficult to get screens, to get theaters in this country, to get international distribution unless you have a big distributor.
Yes.
We were very lucky when we made Dawn of the Dead, when we made Night Riders, Creepshow. Even Creepshow was originally financed by the same man that financed the Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and Night Riders, Salah Hassanin, United Artists Theaters, which was not United Artists Studio. It was a separate company.
Yes.
Now, even that company is gone. So there are no more independents who can invest in, you know, in any substantial way in certain kinds of film. There's, you know, there are companies like Miramax, like New Line, but they have a very specific kind of thinking in terms of what they want to do. So, you know, it's really a matter of survival. In this country, you have to work with the studios because that's who has the money. As I say, someday, I hope, when, you know, the kids, I know that the children are safe and educated, and all of that is finished, I think I'd love to go back to making some very, very small films because the environment is much healthier. You have control. You don't have to worry about, you know, a committee of people who are asking you to do things a certain way. I love it. I love to work. When you have more money, it's always more difficult. The money does not buy control. It just buys problems. An inspiration for those movies, I don't know. I was always interested in the character. I always enjoyed zombies. I thought they were the blue collar monsters. You know, they were the monsters that didn't have they had no power, and so I was always fascinated by that. Then Richard Matheson book, I Am Legend, was called. I think that's probably what gave me the idea. This book was made a couple of times into movies, but I didn't think they were very good. One was pretty good with Vincent Price, The Last Man on Earth. I don't know if you had this film. I don't know if it was in Japan a popular film or not. Also, The Omega Man was based on I Am Legend. But those two ideas, I think I just put them together. I took something from the Matheson's book, and then the idea that the zombies were always the workers. You know, they were the guys that did the work. Meantime, Lugosi was in the castle and collecting all the dough, and I always thought that the poor zombies were the most downtrodden of of the monsters. And so that's where the idea originally came from, almost as a humor, as a funny idea. Then I started to think of it as more of an allegory. And really, the films there's a little bit of conceit there. The first film was 1968, which was a very particular time in American culture. America is where we were angry. We were going through political change. These assassinations and Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and it was just a certain kind of a very dark time with a lot of hope, but meanwhile it was very dark. So I think the first film probably reflects that. And I got to liking this idea. The second film was in the 70s, and in the 70s here we were just dancing, I mean, we were just having a good time. And I think that the Zombie, Dawn of the Dead, it reflects that. It's very baudy, it's very comic book, splashy colors, and it's very different tone than Night of the Living Dead. And then the next one, Day of the Dead, was in the 80s, and so I think what I was trying to do is just reflect the different attitudes of the times there. And in the 80s, things were kind of gloomy again, but everybody was getting rich in the 80s, but only a certain few, and it was still a pretty dark time despite all that. So I think the three films maybe reflect those times. So I actually am now starting to think maybe we need to make one for the 90s. I don't know, I haven't figured out what the 90s are yet. But well, I'd love to, first of all, I must apologize because I was looking forward to going. I wanted to go there. I'd love to be at the festival, but I also love to see your country, and I have much love for my fans there, and I know that my films have been well received there, and I really have a couple of other times before and now I've wanted to go, and this time I just couldn't do anything about it. There's a boss, I have to go to work, so I'm sorry. But next year, if you invite me again, I definitely will do everything that I can. I'll definitely be there. I'll make a promise to be there.
Okay. Well, thank you, George, and
thank you. Thank you very much.
Please come to Japan, okay?
Thank you for coming here. You have to travel. I'd love to. I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.